let's
Sounds
move on.
disappointingly
We're running
basic.
out of time. So, Peter, hello. Yes,
That's
you. I put a section in when we have guests from the other side of the fence. I like to put a section in the podcast called "Pimping Ain't Easy." What have you got to pimp for us, Peter?
Oddworld Soulstorm.
Tell us all about
What is
it.
Soulstorm?
It's our next game that we are making. It's based on the feedback we got after Oddworld New and Tasty. Oddworld New and Tasty was a complete ground-up remake of Abe's Odyssey. So everything was completely new, but it was very familiar to people who were big fans of that original Oddworld game. Soulstorm is more than that. So we assessed the feedback that we were getting from fans and what they wanted us to do for our next game. And what we heard from them was that they wanted us to do the same New and Tasty treatment, but to Abe's Exodus. But then there was also a subset of fans that were saying, well, we love those old games, but we kind of want to see something brand new from Oddworld. So we kind of figured out that because Exodus, the original Exodus, was so rushed at the time, there was big elements of that didn't get included. There was stuff that we could have done at the time that we just didn't have time to do because it was on such a rushed schedule. That game was made in 9 months, which is almost unheard of. So we thought that we could do both of those things that the fans asked. We could make a complete reimagining remake of Exodus, but also make it a brand new game. So Soulstorm is hung on the basic narrative beats of Exodus, so might feel familiar if people are particularly invested in the old games, but it will have it might have brand new locations, it will have brand new gameplay mechanics, it will all be brand new art, in the sort of new and tasty style, so it'll still be a side-on 2D or 2.5D action game, puzzle action game, but and it's still going to take place in the same sort of areas that Exodus did, but everything about it is going to be brand new, and we're going to build on it in a much, much bigger way than we did for New and Tasty, building on Abe's Odyssey. So yeah, we did that. We announced that, and we announced it on the Monday of GDC, which is kind of a bad idea for anybody that's ever thinking about announcing their brand new video game project. Don't do it on the Monday at GDC when you've flown 6,500 miles around the world and haven't slept.
That seems like the ideal time.
Yeah, it's just perfect. So we announced that, and then we sort of build that in with obviously all the marketing PR rubbish that people don't really want to hear me talk about. But basically, we want to get our Twitter followers up. And so we announced that we were making Soulstorm, and if we hit certain targets on our Twitter followers, we would release assets that we're working on for the new game. So we hit a couple of those targets, and we've released his hand, and we've released the sculpture of his chest with the new tattoos on them, which fans were very impressed with. I think it's fair to say that we got a much better response to that than we could have hoped for, which was lovely because we were hoping for quite a good response.
I mean, that is generally the goal.
Yeah, we were hoping people would be impressed, and then when we put it out, we were kind of blown away by the fact that people were, I think almost unanimously, people were blown away by the tone that we'd taken with it and the sort of the scope of the ambition of the project. Because it would have, I mean, the easy thing would have been to just remake Abe's Exodus, and that would have been fine, and people would have been happy enough with that. But there was stuff that Lorne had always wanted to do with Exodus, but had never had the time when he was making it all those years ago. But now we're in a position where we sort of, the ball's in our hands, and we know what we can do, and we can make those decisions ourselves. Rather than having publishers involved and whatever else goes along with it. So we're in a really good place, and we're really happy with the feedback that we've got so far.
I mean, the problem is, have you spent so long thinking about what you can do? Have you thought about whether or not you should do it?
Some of the ideas that we're talking about, we definitely should do, because they're going to be absolutely
That's fine
awesome.
then.
And I mean, I am quite literally paid to say that, but some of the ideas that are kicking around, are things that I'm very excited about as an old fan of the Oddworld games from all those years ago.
Look,
so it'd be nice to get them out in the
I've
wild.
always wanted to ask someone if they've ever thought about whether or not they should do it. Unfortunately, you have, so it's fine, I guess.
Yeah, ask me again in 2 years when this game's nearly 2 years, I guess. We're aiming for the end of 2017, so ask me again then if I think that we should have done it, and you might get a very different answer. Because making video games is not as much fun as everybody thinks.
That's all right.
I wouldn't know, and I'm probably the only person in this chat room that wouldn't know. I say chat room podcast.
I'm tired all the time, but apart from that, it's all right.
Yep. Tired all the time, social life suffers, constantly under pressure to get things out and get things done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's awesome.
I suppose.
And it's fantastic to see those, like Oddworld. We're so lucky at Oddworld that we have such a dedicated core of fans that we can always kind of dip into and mine their expertise and their enthusiasm for the brand.
Yeah.
So just being able to launch the game, and I mean, we just threw up a website. We didn't do it the traditional route. So we didn't put out a press release. We didn't bring on a PR company the way we do sometimes for like E3 appointments and stuff. Or most people will send out an email blast to everybody that they have on a mailing list with a press release. We didn't do that. We built a website and we got it tonally the way we wanted it. And we wrote a press release and put it on that website. And then Monday morning I think it was like 7 a.m. San Francisco time from GDC, we basically just posted the link on our Twitter and Facebook pages. And within an hour, we'd hit all the major outlets and nearly all the minor outlets. We hit mainstream press. We basically had everybody talking about it, right up until Microsoft announced that they were going to open their network up to be able to do crossplay with PlayStation. And then everybody wanted to talk about that instead, which is to be expected at GDC.
That is quite an interesting story, to be fair. I don't think you can begrudge them that.
No, not at all. It was nice that we could put it out and we were the focus of the game's press for a couple of hours.
I mean, that's always nice.
And that was really cool. It was really cool to see. And then I guess a month since we launched, since we announced, just sort of monitoring what the community's saying and taking that feedback on our social networks, has all been really positive and really nice to see the reaction that we're getting. If anybody, I don't know, I can't speak for every video games company, obviously, but at Oddworld, we really do read all the social media messages we get, and we monitor things like this, the Oddworld forums. We're constantly looking at that, and we're looking at the Reddit groups and like everything, everywhere that anybody talks about Oddworld games, we try to keep an eye on those places. So it is all that feedback gets taken into account, and I think relatively uniquely, but the way we do it is relatively unique. But I think a lot of people do a similar thing in that we monitor all that and we listen to what people want and we use that to influence what we're going to do. So as a company, we are embarking on a process of spending millions and millions of dollars on making something because that's what we saw the community asking for. And that's always a really nice thing to be involved in because it feels like you're kind of serving a community rather than just making a product.
I mean, but on the other hand, you are just making a product. We'd like to make that very clear. It's a very clinical approach to everything, I assume. You sit down and you're like, if we do exactly this, we'll make $2 million and be done.
Part of it is that. Part of it is figuring out what we think the market wants as well as what our fans want.
I'm disappointed because that was just me being silly and you gave an actual answer.
No, because it's valid. We want, at the end of this process, we want people to buy the game. So we're kind of figuring out what will make a successful, saleable game in 18 months to 2 years' time. And trying to focus on integrating elements of that into what we have as a collection of fan service, essentially. But we also have to think about selling it. And, we were successful with New and Tasty, and that's why we can make Soulstorm. And we kind of have to be successful with Soulstorm so that we can make the next thing. So that's all a consideration. But elements of it are figuring all that out and working that out and trying to assess what will be successful. And then elements of it are just sitting down and going, well, I've had this really cool idea and we'll pass that around in meetings and talk about it. And like somebody will go, well, fuck it, let's mock it up. Let's see what works. Let's have a look at it and explore it a little bit. And if it's a really cool idea and it's fun, then we'll do it just because it's fun.
What if I buy it, but then just resent you the whole time I'm playing it? Not the company, you.
Me personally?
Yeah.
But you buy it at full price on launch day. Yeah, no,
I kind of resent you anyway, so it's not like it'll make much difference.
No,
we have a complicated relationship.
I'll sell myself.
That's what you want. You're like, I will fully accept hatred if you buy the game. Please buy the game.
Yeah, if it keeps me in a job, then you can hate me all
excellent.
you like.
I mean, I hate you anyway, so.
And I am still employed, so.
I assume that's the reason you're employed. Lon gives me a phone call once a week, just checks. Do you still hate Peter?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, he's got a job then. Yeah.
Good to go.
All right.
Sign those
questions.
Checks. Ship it.
In the marathon. It's the only question, but we'll be quick. She says that she played Rezzed Hotel, which I talked about a few weeks ago. It's a good puzzle game, point and click adventure kind of thing. Like point and click adventure, escape the room, weird story, cannibalism game. Liked it, enjoyable. She would like to know, though, on a completely unrelated note, are any of you Gears fans, and which is your favourite? Hers is Gears of War 3. I had a fabulous experience playing, I believe it was Gears of War 3. Or it might have been 2. I can't remember. But playing it with my friend Matt, playing it co-op, like on his couch together, local co-op, lot of fun. And it being like just, it's a good game, but it's fucking bonkers. Like super weird at the same time. But just, we still have a running gag about Razor Hail, because there's Razor Hail in those games. Where
War 2
literally it fucking rains razors from the sky, and we're like, who is living here? Why did you colonize this planet? Why was that a decision you made? This planet is so fucking hostile. Why did you think it was a good decision to cause it? It rains razor. Well, it hails razors. That's not good.
It's the world's most emo planet.
Oh, that's a bad joke.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
We're just
it had to go there.
Yeah, like I do like Gears, but it's like, why? Why would you live here?
I like Gears. I never played the first one, but I sort of jumped in on the second one and loved it. And then I thought that the third one, I preferred the narrative delivery on the third one, and sort of the big set piece moments in the third one than the second. But I think the second was overall probably a better game for me.
Oh, so what I did actually like in the third one, the Horde mode in the third one's really good.
Yeah, all that multiplayer bollocks. Never really went.
Yeah, I remember I played that with my brother, and that's very enjoyable. Like it's just like that's good, and that's it's interesting because you're because it's co-op rather than competitive multiplayer. Like strategies like camping feel a lot more valid because there's no one being like, don't fucking camp. And in Gears with the cover based system, like finding a good sheltered spot is not. It's kind of like, it's not like camping in other games. It's more an integral part of the experience.
Yeah, it's not camping; it's cover. And Gears was kind of the first mainstream game to make that horde mode stuff big, wasn't it?
It wasn't the first game that did it.
It wasn't the first
but
game that did it, but it was the first one where it was sort of a big main.
Just wondering when Left 4 Dead came out,
and that was hugely popular. Oh, that doesn't count. That's not the same sort of thing, is it?
Yeah.
Did it have like waves like that?
I'm pretty certain it did. I think it was one of the multiplayer modes. I'll have to look that up at some point. Probably wrong, but I definitely seem to recall that. But I don't know when that was. But no, Gears of War, I've probably not as into it as, say, the pair of you, because I've only played the first one, and that was back in the days when Gamerscore was a big thing, and my brother was absolutely obsessed with Gamerscore and wanted the co-op achievement, and he was like, yeah, you're allowed to play this game. And I'm like, yay! What do I do? I still remember, I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2, actually, because there was one that had that section where if you stepped into the dark, you just got annihilated by bats. And I think that was the first one.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too familiar, so it was probably the first one.
I enjoyed it for what it was, but I've not been that hardcore fan of the Gears franchise. And despite the fact that I've been an Xbox gamer for a relatively long time, it's not a franchise I'm overly familiar with, in all honesty.
I think the other thing with the Gears franchise is that it's very much of its time. Like, when those games came out, they were fantastic games, but they've been kind of mimicked so much and emulated so much since then. Like, I mean, Gears of War was a massive deal. The first game was a massive deal. But then the hundreds and hundreds of third-person cover-based action shooters that have come out since then kind of, I think, dilute the impact for it. If you go back and play it now, you're likely to play it and think, well, this is like a dozen other games that I've played in the past 2 years. So you kind of have to always remember the timing of those games when they came out. Like I say, the Horde mode in Gears of War was like one of the first times that Horde mode was a big deal in games. And now Horde mode is kind of a standard thing in a lot of multiplayer games like that. So they were very much of their time. But yes, I've very much enjoyed the Gears games that I've played. And like I say, I think the set-piece narrative delivery parts of Gears 3 were phenomenal.
That's it for this week's episode of the podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can tweet us at TSA Podcast on the Twitter, so you can email us at podcast@TheSixthAxis.com. If you want to get previous episodes, you can go to TheSixthAxis.com, you can go to YouTube, you can go to Stitcher. If you'd like to get in touch personally, at me on Twitch as Halpro, it's HALB Pro. You can get Peter at Claus Blue, you can get Dave as Dave __ Irwin. That is going to do it for this week's episode. So say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bring back
Goodbye.
The Sixth Axis Podcast.